While the world's attention is focused elsewhere, Egypt is quietly building a fortress, but not with stone and mortar. They're building it with strategy. It's a move so significant, it's literally redrawing the entire military map of the Middle East. Let's break down exactly how they're doing it. So, is this really it? Is the power map of the region actually being redrawn right now? Well, to answer that, we need to understand the new strategic reality that Egypt is building, piece by powerful piece. And look, this isn't just happening by accident. What we're seeing is a really deliberate three-pillar strategy designed for a new era of conflict. We're going to break down each one: a unified military front, a new industrial engine, and a technological leap that completely changes the rules of the game. All right, so let's get into pillar number 1, forging a new Eastern Front. This is all happening through something pretty mind-blowing, an unprecedented military integration with its neighbor, Jordan. And when I say unprecedented, I mean it. This goes way, way beyond any typical alliance we've ever seen. You know, to really get why this is such a huge deal, you have to understand the old concept of the ring countries. Historically, these were the 4 nations that formed a circle around Israel. But today, with Syria and Lebanon in chaos, only 2 with really powerful armies are left standing: Egypt and Jordan. And now, they're starting to act as one. And when you actually look at the details here, the sheer depth of this integration is what's truly staggering. I mean, we're talking about a unified military command. Think about that. And joint radar networks, so they're basically seeing with one set of eyes. Egypt is even deploying its own troops and engineers to upgrade Jordan's air defenses on Jordanian soil. This isn't just 2 countries cooperating anymore. This is the foundation of a single unified fighting force. Okay, let's move on to our second pillar. Because, you know, every fortress needs its own forge, right? A place to make its own tools. Well, Egypt is making sure it can build its own weapons. And to do that, it's making a really fascinating move: a high-stakes defense partnership with Turkey. Think about that for a second. 2 regional heavyweights who have often been at odds are now becoming these crucial industrial partners. That alone tells you something massive is shifting. So, right after President Erdogan's historic visit to Cairo, these 2 nations inked defense deals worth around $350 million. But honestly, forget the price tag for a minute. The real story is what Egypt is actually getting for its money. And this is where the strategy is just brilliant. It clicks right into place. See, Egypt isn't just buying weapons off the shelf. It's buying the factory itself. First up, they're getting the Tolga system, which is a cutting-edge weapon to counter that growing threat from drones. But the real game changer is the second part. Turkey is helping set up factories on Egyptian soil to produce their own advanced artillery shells. The goal here is total self-sufficiency. It's about never again having to depend on a foreign supply chain in the middle of a crisis. All right, this brings us to the third and, honestly, the most futuristic pillar of the whole strategy. This is where Egypt stops just modernizing its forces and starts leading in next-generation warfare. And they're doing it with a truly game-changing weapon called Skywolf. And here's the kicker. With this single move, Egypt becomes the first nation in all of Africa or the Arab world to get its hands on a high-powered electromagnetic weapon. We're not talking about a missile here. It's not a gun. This is a directed energy weapon. And it puts Egypt in a very, very exclusive club with global powers like the US, Russia, and China. So this represents a complete shift in thinking, right? From what you could call costly interception to something new: smart deterrence. Instead of firing a multi-million-dollar missile to take out, a $10,000 drone, you use a pulse of energy to just fry its electronics. It's not about brute force anymore. It's about being smarter, technologically superior. And just look at these numbers. They're insane. A single Patriot missile, that'll set you back $3 million. An Iris-T missile, about $600,000. So what's the cost to fire the Skywolf system? Basically nothing. Just the price of the electricity to power it up. This completely flips the economic script of air defense. It makes it almost impossible to overwhelm Egypt with those cheap drone swarms we're seeing everywhere now. So how does this thing actually work? Well, it's a really smart 2-stage process. First, at long range, it creates this huge invisible jamming wall over 10 kilometers wide, cutting off a drone's communication and GPS. And if anything somehow manages to punch through that wall, well, that's when stage 2 kicks in, a powerful electromagnetic pulse that instantly burns out the electronics of any target in a 500-meter bubble.
It's basically a silent, invisible, and incredibly effective kill switch.
So, what happens when you put all three of these pillars together? You've got a unified front, a self sufficient military industry, and a technological trump card. Well, it creates an entirely new regional equation, and you better believe other powers are sitting up and taking notice.
And look, you don't have to take my word for it. Just listen to this. According to leaked reports from a secret session in the Israeli Knesset, Prime Minister Netanyahu himself expressed direct alarm, stating that the Egyptian army's strength is growing rapidly and that this development must be monitored and, quote, prevented from increasing. That tells you the strategic shift is having a very real impact. So, what's the big idea behind all of this? What's the philosophy? Well, it's this really pragmatic doctrine they're calling intersecting circles. And what that means is, essentially, Egypt is done with those rigid, old school alliances. It's not about picking a side between East and West anymore. Instead, Cairo is engaging with everyone, the US, Russia, China, based purely on its own national interests, issue by issue. It's a super flexible, realist playbook for the 21st century. So let's just recap the big picture here. You have a new, unified Arab front with Jordan. You have an emerging defense industrial power that can make its own stuff. And you have a leader in next-generation warfare technology. Put them all together, and these aren't just small tweaks. This is a massive, significant shift in the regional balance of power. And all of this leaves us with one final, absolutely crucial question. Has Egypt built this incredible fortress to guarantee stability in a really volatile region? Or has it, maybe without meaning to, just drawn the lines for a future conflict? That right there is the question that's going to define the Middle East for years to come.